My local Joann store is closing. That means the entire store is marked down 40 to 60% off the original price. And if there's anything better than shopping for fabric, it's shopping for fabric that's on sale. Stay tuned to see what I got and what I plan to do with it in my Joann fabric haul. Hi, I'm Tony. Welcome to So-So Lounge. So-So Lounge is the place for all things sewing, from tutorials and tips to pattern and fabric hauls and sew-alongs. Be sure to click like and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a stitch. Now, don't panic. Even though one of the local Joann stores is closing, it is actually moving into a larger location that will be about 5 times the size and, added bonus, 10 minutes closer to my house. Now, when I saw the signs going up on the front of the store, I got very, very excited, but I also realized that I needed to develop a plan because, let's face it, if you've been sewing for longer than a minute, you probably have bought fabric that you have no plans to use, but you just liked it and or it was a good price. So I have quite a fabric stash right now, and I really have been trying to go through what I have and not buy more fabric. Hi, I'm Tony, and I'm a fabric hoarder.
Hi, Tony.
It's true, I am a fabric hoarder. I fully admit that, and you might be too. So we're in this together. This time I decided I would do something a little bit different, and I would actually have a plan when I went shopping for fabric, and that way I wouldn't go crazy and buy a whole bunch of stuff that I have no plans for and no hope of sewing in the immediate future. So I went to the store and I looked around, and I particularly focused on the clearance section since everything on clearance was marked down 40 to 70% off, and so there were some really great deals there. And one of the things I noticed was that there was a lot of knit fabric. Knit fabric is something that I have started sewing in the last year. I'm trying to overcome my fear of sewing with knits instilled upon me by my college professors, who all said that sewing with knits was too hard and not to worry about it. I've made a couple of dresses in the last year that were fairly successful, and I wanted to continue and make some more knit garments with some patterns that I had on hand. Now, shopping with a specific pattern in mind helped me buy the exact amount of fabric that I needed, and also minimized any extra fabric that I would be tempted to buy because, just to add it to the stash because it was something I liked. So I went with a purpose and with my pattern so that I could get exactly the amount of fabric I needed, which had some pluses and minuses. The largest one being that sometimes there wasn't enough fabric left on the bolt and I wasn't able to use it. But I got 5 different fabrics to go along with 5 patterns, which I'm going to show you today. So one of the first fabrics that I found, which I really, really liked, even though it's kind of weird and funky, is this pink Zodiac constellation fabric. So it's got constellations, it's got the Zodiac symbols in cream and pink with black outlines, and this is a, let's see what it says, jersey knit. It is 90% rayon, 10% spandex, and I got it to make McCall's 7893. Let's go in for a closer look. This is the Zodiac print fabric, and you can see that there's Scorpio and Virgo on there. There's some Pisces. I don't know, that's just a moon and a sun. There's some little constellations. There are symbols, Zodiac symbols as well, and then the random word Cassiopeia. I do not see that constellation specifically, but it might be here somewhere. Now, my plan is to make McCall's 7893 in version B, which is just the even hem skirt. I'll probably use the sleeve length on A, which will just be elbow length because I like that better, but I'm not a huge fan of this uneven hem. Now, this is the line drawing on the back, so you can see it's just a straight hem, but I'm going to use a shorter sleeve. I'll just combine those and make that happen that way. Now, when you're buying knit fabrics, one thing to keep in mind is that you want to make sure that you have the correct stretch amount. So to do that, I just take my fabric and on the fold, because it says 4 inches of the crosswise folded knit, so I have it there. I just kind of hold my fabric here at this end, kind of pinch where the end is supposed to be, and then you need to stretch it to this point to make sure that it fits. So this knit will work for this pattern, which is quite awesome, and I'm very excited to use this to make a dress because I think it would be a lot of fun. The next fabric I got is this blue abstract painted knit fabric. I really liked it because it reminded me of a Juan Mito painting, and I just thought it'd be kind of fun for the summer. This is 93% lyocell and 7% spandex. Now, lyocell is like rayon. It is a man-made cellulosic fiber, but it's not as environmentally damaging as rayon production. And you may have seen this labeled as Tencel, which is the same thing. That's just the brand name. Now, with this fabric, I am going to make Butterick 6680, and I think I'm going to make version A. Let's go in for a closer look. So you can see up close, it's a really pretty print. It's kind of abstract, looks like it's painted, and this fabric has a really pretty hand. It has a nice drape to it when you hold it, and that is going to look really good for this kind of loosely draped skirt. And I am going to be making version A. I have enough fabric to make B, but I don't know if I want to mess with all these complications of additional seam lines and how that'll look with my fabric print. So I think I'm just going to stick with A. Now, one thing to mention is that when you go fabric shopping, and if it's all on sale, and if you've got a plan, you know that you're buying the right width of fabric in addition to the right length. The thing about this is that a lot of these patterns are all for 60-inch wide fabric, and not all knit fabric is 60 inches wide. So part of my problem with shopping was that I found a fabric that I like, but it was not wide enough for my pattern. It was about 44, 45 inches wide, and that would just not work. So I had to adjust accordingly, but on the plus side, I wasn't stuck with a bunch of knit fabric that I can't use. Fabric number 3 is called Modern Zebra. Yes, that was actually the name of the fabric on the bolt. This is a knit print. It is 94% polyester, 6% spandex to give it some additional stretch. And the pattern I'm going to be using to make this is Butterick 6854. I'm going to be making this short sleeve version, and I think that it will look really great with some black leggings or skinny jeans or something to that effect with some nice chunky jewelry. It'll be perfect for the summer. I love this stripe fabric. It reminds me of Fun Stripe gum. Leave a comment if you remember what that is. Now, I didn't know what I wanted to make with it, and so I went through my pattern stash and I found this Simplicity pattern. It's 1616, and this is an older print pattern, but it is still in the pattern books, which means it's still available for you to buy now. I have a skirt from Target that is very similar to View A, and I love it, and it's starting to wear out, and it's blue with white stripes, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun to make a similar skirt in this multicolored stripe, and it will give me a lot of options with tank tops to wear and shirts to pair with it for the entirety of the summer. Now, this is a printed knit as well. It is another lyocell fabric. It is 93% lyocell, 7% spandex, and I think it's going to look really cool in this pattern, and I'm really excited about making this. The last fabric I got in my knit fabric haul was this black kind of wildflower print knit. This is 90% rayon and 10% spandex. And actually my sister is the one who picked this out because she wants me to make a dress for her in this Vogue pattern, which is kind of a classic Diane von Furstenberg style wrap dress. Let's go in for a closer look. So this is a very easy Vogue pattern. Back when I was in college, we called these very easy, very Vogue. And this is the classic wrap dress that you've probably been seeing forever. It is based on the Diane von Furstenberg model that first came out in the 70s, and there are a couple variations. They have more of a knee-length variation with a short sleeve, just simple wrap, and then you have more of the classic style with the collar and a 3/4 length sleeve, and it's a little bit longer, I think. They might both be the same size, length. Yes, they are. They're the same length, but as you can see from the line drawings, one of them has cuffs and collars to make it a little bit fancier, and then the other is a little bit more casual. So my sister's been asking me to make her this dress for quite a while, so I'm going to do it in this fabric. Now, as I've been talking about these fabrics, you may have noticed that I'm rattling off the fiber content and the type of fabric, and you may be wondering, how do I remember those things? And more importantly, where do you find that information? Everything you need to know is at the very top of the fabric bolt. So this is our Zodiac print jersey knit fabric. It is 90% rayon and 10% spandex. The fabric can be machine washed on the normal setting with warm water. Non-chlorine bleach can be used, and we can tumble dry on medium. And we need to use a cool iron. Once you know where to look to find out the fiber content and washing instructions of your fabric, then you can snap a quick picture with your phone and save it for future reference. Once you get home, you can grab an index card and write all that information transferred from the bolt, and then take a little piece of your fabric. Once you've cut it out, you have a little swatch, attach it to your index card, and then you will have it ready to go for future reference, because let's face it, your fabric is going to last longer if you wash it properly, and knowing the washing instructions will make a huge difference to keeping it around a lot longer. After all, you took the time to sew it, may as well just take a second to gather that information and keep it handy so you know how to wash your fabric. Also, another thing to keep in mind is it says on the bolt the type of heat setting for your iron. So if you're planning on pressing your garment, which as you know, you need to do as part of the construction steps, you want to make sure that your iron is set to the correct heat setting so it doesn't melt your fabric or burn a hole in it or anything like that. So use this tip and you will be glad that you did, and you'll have sewing success. Now that you've seen what I bought, you're probably wondering how much I saved. So these three fabrics were originally $16.99. This one was $14.99, and then the Zodiac print was $12.99 a yard. Now all of these fabrics were marked down an initial 40%, and then on top of that there was an additional 30% taken off at the register. I have about 2.5 to 3.25 yards of all of these, and so that's a good amount of fabric, and I only paid $76. Plus tax, of course. But the original price of this fabric would have been about $276. So that's a total of a $200 savings. And if you've ever been to the fabric store, you know that is quite the fabric haul. Now you know what I got in my store closing Joann fabric haul. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Be sure to click like and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a stitch. And leave a comment and let me know which of these fabrics are your favorite and which pattern you think I should sew first. Until we meet again, happy sewing!